the Evolution Security Podcast. Well, it is time again for the Evolution Security Podcast. Eric, it has actually been a little while since we've done a show.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, it's been that way, but at the same time, here, we get together now, have a great time, and feeling refreshed, coming back on the air, so to speak. So
Absolutely. Yeah, man, it's this is a big week too.
Boy, it is.
Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely almost a kind of a whirlwind week. We can talk a little bit about that, which of course, this is a couple of days after the presidential election, and it went different than I think a lot of people thought. But we'll just chime in and talk a little bit about that.
And I will say, because we got something to hit on before we really get on that subject. And, Aaron, I frankly felt like it was going to go our way. And we'll talk about what we mean by our way, so.
Sure.
But yeah, go for it, man. What you got?
Well, bro, before we jump in to the topics we have tonight, I wanted to go ahead and again mention our sponsor, Tenacor. And I wanted to bring up again, Eric, the last time that I talked on the air about my Velo 5, I kind of was rubbing it in, wasn't I? Because it seems like that was during, I think it was right after the hurricane there in North Carolina. And I think yours got kind of held up.
Yeah, it did. And, I didn't show it on the air, nor did I say it to you, but I was like a sad child, because I didn't have my Velo 5, which folks can see on the screen here. Fabulous, excellent design improvements on the Velo 4. Velo 4 still a wonderful holster. If you got that, still one of my favorite holsters, and I still got a couple of those.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got my 19, of course my Holosun 507 on here, and Davis stippling job with an Overwatch trigger. Yeah, so in some Ameriglow backup sights, man, just really dig this holster. I mean, excuse me. The holster and this pistol. The combo is great.
That's a Gen 5.
Yes, it is in fact the Gen 5, and I dig the Gen 5, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's good.
I think Glock did a superb job with this as well. Still love my Gen 3s too.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't owned a Gen 4, but a lot. I just think that the Gen 5 was an improvement over the 4. That's all I'll say on it.
Certainly. But so I've got my Velo 5 here, and I've got very similar, Eric. I've got this is my Gen 3 19 that Ben at Boresight Solution, his team did for me, man. This was my dream carry gun, man. It's very nice. It's a no compromise, exactly what I want Glock, and the Holosun EPS enclosed emitter optic, which is awesome. And by the way, there's SIG is coming out with some stuff that is looking pretty good.
Yep.
That new Romeo X that's enclosed.
It does look nice.
Yeah. So,
I'm curious about, have you been hearing any reviews or quality discussions on it?
I have, and they're supposed to be pretty darn solid and good. I think they're going to, to be frank, boy, we didn't mean to get off on this, did we? That's all right, because we're talking about our sponsor. But I mean, they're going to be let's just put it straight. They're going to be a I believe they're made in Germany, and they're going to be a non-Chinese alternative. And it looks like they're going to, to be frank, Dude, Hollow's Son is really almost the only game in town for a optic on a carry pistol. But I think SIG's finally coming out with some stuff that's gonna give them a run for their money. But they're still more expensive. But so back to this though. So I've got my Velo 5 here, and Eric, I think we didn't go over this. I know this is nerd-tastic, but pictures up in the video there. It, without even trying, it looks like we have ours set up the same.
And now I will tell you off the cuff, because I'm running with the small cam bar.
Yeah.
I think I might, in fact, my body style, I might go with the medium. I just haven't changed it yet. But I mean, really, there's no. I think I'm gonna try it just to see. If it's too much, I'll just go right back to this. But that's still phenomenal the way that I'm running it now. I let the pistol run a bit high too.
Mm-hmm.
Not real high, but yeah.
Well, and
awesome from Tennecore. Shout out to Jeff and his folks, man. Superb holsters.
Yeah, everyone go to tennecore.com and check out what they have. They have, again, in my opinion, the best carry holsters on the market. And like you said, bro, the Velo 4 is awesome. But how they could improve on that, I'm not sure how they did that, but they did. So, all right. Well, bro, today it's interesting. I work for an aerospace company. I'm a bean counter. I count other people's money, not my own. And so we had it was pretty fun. I got invited to a barbecue out at our owners, the family that owns my company. They invited us and one of our customers, Gulfstream, out to their ranch. And I'm just amazing place here in the middle of Oklahoma, and just some of the nice places you get about 30 miles out of town, and you got some pretty places out there. And
yeah, there are some very nice places in Oklahoma. Oklahoma sometimes is misunderstood. It's just you talk to people. I just thought it was flat land with tumbleweeds and but then you get into green country where we're from the Tulsa Broken Arrow area. I mean, and there's obviously not massive hills, but rolling hills. Heck, we even got the Comanche Mountains down south. Not massive mountains compared to what I've lived around the last 11 years prior to moving here to North Carolina, but still pretty neat land masses in Oklahoma that, again, are misunderstood. So yeah, there's some wealthy people coming from backgrounds of oil and aviation, and so
and so we were out there having a good time, and everybody. I mean, again, it was just kind of an event that you go out and these people treat some of these customers with some good oaky times, and one of the things we were doing out there was skeet shooting.
Cool.
And I am not much of a shotgun shooter, and I'm definitely not a skeet shooter. I'll tell you what, the CEO, this gal that probably weighs about 110 pounds, and dude, she was tearing that skeet up, man.
Cool.
So it was fun trying that out. I did okay at it. But
what shotgun were you running? Do you recall?
Bro, I believe it was some type of Ruger, but it was a fairly nice over under 20 gauge. and which, as far as I know, that's kind of a pretty common
Yeah.
skeet shooting rig.
Yep.
Is the 20 gauge over under. But yeah, we had a good time. It was a fun day, and it was just over. They had this amazing system, electronic, of course, automatic system, over a bluff where the birds flew out, and it was a good time.
Yeah, you sent a video that I got to see. It looked beautiful out there. Looked like a great time. And you building camaraderie with your fellow employees, and heck, to that extent, your supervisory chain as well. Not that you're out there to kiss rear or anything, but developing good relationships with your leadership is always good.
Oh, and when I was able to, as we were talking about, shooting, I mentioned that I was a firearms instructor, and the CEO goes, "Oh, I didn't know that," and so that kind of struck up a conversation. And her brother was there, and he struck up a conversation with me, asking me about my BCM hat. And I had him on the BCM website looking at uppers.
Oh, cool.
By the end of lunch. So
little influence going there.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I also noticed, in one of our little text strings, of course, something you had written some notes on, I guess, was some of your accountant stuff, and Brian, his little eagle eyes caught the G650.
Yeah, I had just done some reporting on some of our products that we sell to Gulfstream. That was happenstance.
Yeah, I knew it. I just thought it'd be funny. Shout out to Brian Schilt out there. He's gotten his pilot's license, so he keyed in on that jet. The Gulfstream seems to be the flagship of corporate jets.
Oh, certainly. I'm sure he wouldn't mind having a G650 to
and shoot. We could bring him back. We could bring him back. One of his primary jobs, he could fly us around the country in that G650. What do you think about that, Brian?
I'd have to start adding up the accounting on running something like that.
Oh man,
Brian would have to foot the bill for that. All right. Well, Eric, I did want to mention this as I am still, if you recall, and I think I mentioned this to the audience a few months ago, that I finally invested in a nice Dillon press, and bro, enough components to load about 20,000 rounds, and I still haven't set up my press. And I still have this book by Richard Lee. I'm supposed to read 100 pages, the first 100 pages of this. I'm speaking to Brian Schilt.
Did Brian assign that to you?
Oh, he assigned it to me. And so
what's keeping you?
Getting ready for Master IDC and all that kind of stuff.
Well, two things. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to ask you. We'll come back to that, about what drill you ended up teaching in that section. But back to your reloading, bro. I want to read your manual, but man, I'd be glad to help you over FaceTime, help you get it set up.
I'll tell you what, I think bare minimum, I would at least just like someone to talk me through the ground level. I'm not saying I won't read this before I really get going. I don't want Brian getting mad at me, but I could at least start understanding it before I, read, a third of a book.
Yeah. And Aaron, really, it if you've never done it before, it can feel daunting. I've reloaded for so many years, it's kind of second nature to me. However, when I sit there and say that, I want any audience members, especially avid reloaders or folks that are wanting to get into it. I mean, you gotta to make sure you're doing stuff right. Obviously, it can have catastrophic effects if you're not doing things correctly, but still yet the presses themselves help mitigate a lot of that, but you certainly can mess up,
Well,
but
and
yeah.
I'm sure once you get your recipe going, and as long as you're paying attention to your recipe and not letting things get out of hand.
Yeah. And then you do
gonna be just fine.
periodic checks. You do periodic checks. Like, I mean, I'll stop after, a couple hundred rounds, and if not more often, and I'll grab a case that's got powder in it, and I'll weigh the powder, making sure that the powder charge isn't changing much. But also, Aaron, you will eventually get to this way as well, or get to this level of sensitivity. Is if something happens, you typically notice it because something will feel different. Like if a brass case rams weird, and you're like, that didn't feel right. Or you can tell when a primer doesn't seat.
Yeah.
Because it won't have the small amount of resistance. And I mean, I'm always when I watch the powder charge go in, I see it right there. Okay, I see a powder charge. So yeah, it's just a process, and it's well worth it. So yeah, man, let's maybe get on the horn this weekend, and I can talk you through a lot of it. I'll show you on my press.
Bro, I've got 2 range days planned this weekend, and that's it. No gigs, nothing like that. So sounds good.
Yeah, I'm either shooting Saturday or Sunday. I haven't decided.
How come you aren't working? How come you aren't shooting both like me?
Because I plan on doing some good workouts and building antennas one of those days too.
Oh, I don't plan on doing any of that. So
my weekends, I still get one of my workouts in during the weekend these days. I'm lifting 3 times a week right now.
Good.
So now, and my lifting, I've said before, folks know that part of this was my rehab, but I'm not up in my PRs yet at all. But I've taken it real slow and just linear progressing, every single workout, and I'm noticing a lot of my back irritation going away. So I think ultimately, man, I just really needed to get the confidence to be back to regular squats and deadlift again.
Bro, as you're talking about that, my son, my 15-year-old, he sent me this video the other day. He was dressed up like Batman on Halloween, and he sent me a video of him benching over 300 pounds in his Batman.
You sent it to me. It's awesome.
Well, I'm not that good at counting weight. Isn't that what it was? I think he said it was 330 or something like that.
I'd have to look at it, Aaron. I didn't count it up, but I can after this.
Well, that dude's 15 and 165 pounds.
Yeah.
15 and 165 pounds. He's a stout dude.
He's got that 15-year-old testosterone and recovery pace.
You better
awesome.
believe it.
Proud of him.
Man, we are kind of going off on tangents here, but we also said in the beginning here we're going to get here and talk and have a good time. So, Eric, I did want to ask you. So, what kind of press do you have again?
Aaron, mine's a 550B.
Dylan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like their mid-level press.
Which I think the one that I got was a 750.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yours is definitely a nicer press than mine. So
yours gets the job done. I haven't even gotten mine out. So, well, Eric, one more thing, bro. Did I tell you I started taking lessons from Paul Gilbert again?
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing to be able to take music lessons from your favorite musician in the world.
Well, at some point, I'm going to do the same thing with Tim Alexander when I don't have, so many other things that are honestly more important. I'm not saying my drums aren't important, but for me to start taking lessons from him, I'm gonna have to periodize some other stuff right now. So,
Bro, remember
it's gonna.
when we were playing through some Tool Numa when we
Mhm.
were together on our birthday? That was we got that sounding pretty good. I wish we would have recorded that.
Me too. Yeah, it sounded awesome. My
Dude,
wife,
you were tearing it up, man.
awesome. It'd been a while since you had played with me.
Oh, dude, it had been freaking 2 decades since we had played in the same room. As
Yeah,
far as
so it would have been the last time was that video we had of us playing at the 180 building.
okay, so not no, dude, that would have been
So that was when I was a soldier. So Aaron, it's possible. I was a soldier at the time, so I've been out of the army for 17 years now.
yeah, dude. It was
So
it. So yeah, it sounds like it was.
yeah, so it was a while, but yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I've continued to work on Numa. I've gotten way better at it since when we played that together. So
That is not an easy song, and I'll tell you, I have been away from it for a while, so I'll have to refresh my
I
memory
would
on
tell
it.
you, Aaron, it may not seem like it to others that are uninitiated, but it's probably the hardest drumming song that I've ever tried to learn. And I'm talking, some of the hardest Primus stuff of Tim Alexander's, Numa, Danny Carey, drummer of Tool. He's an incredible drummer. The main thing is, as you know, is the time signature changes,
Oh yeah,
and it seems random. So in many cases, I'm simply memorizing the time change, and
oh yeah.
rather
When
than
when I
rather than
was
counting it.
when I was playing that, there's no way I could, frankly, no way I could count each one of those time signature changes. I just had to feel it and memorize it, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, you have some topics to delve into a little bit here.
Well, Aaron, I think because we're still fairly close at the beginning, I honestly think it's important for us to talk real quick about the presidential election and the outcome of also the Senate and what is looking to be maintenance of the House majority too. But we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we got to face one fact, and you and I have talked about this on this show multiple times, is that you cannot extract politics from the Second Amendment.
Mm-mm.
And so, for obvious reasons, of course, we don't shy away from that. Of course, we voted for President Trump. And we reflect on the very fact that really the only complaints that we really ever get is folks that don't like our politics every now and then, which it's minimal what people have said, but but again, we got to remind ourselves that if we're about self protection and about the Second Amendment, that I mean we have to keep in mind the political landscape, and frankly, if this went to Harris, the Second Amendment was looking to be threatened even more so than it has this last 4 years. And I think the biggest risk was losing the conservative leaning Supreme Court, right? Justice Thomas and Alito are likely going to retire soon,
Well,
possibly
Alito
under.
is. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. So, I mean, to my remembrance, he was older when he came in.
Okay.
So I believe I'm correct on that, folks. If I'm wrong, forgive me. I'll correct myself if I have that wrong. I'm speaking off memory. But yeah, I believe it's Alito and Thomas are close to retirement or could retire soon. I think I'd be most sad hearing Clarence Thomas leave.
Oh, no joke.
So yeah, that was, in all honesty, probably one of the biggest impacts is the possibility of losing the Supreme Court majority, and because We know how important the Supreme Court has been to the Second Amendment recently. And then, of course, I'm hoping President Trump fires Dettelbach first chance he gets too, legislating from the executive branch. And, we can go on and on. And there's more to Trump getting elected than just the Second Amendment too. Obviously, we're talking the economy. What average of around 21% inflation. That's average, right? There's a lot of price index numbers you can look at that are much higher, some lower. And of course, the border. And we've talked about that on this show multiple times. I mean, at least 11 million that have been let in, known terrorists have been let in. Of course, the geopolitical landscape, this current administration, we went from $4 billion of liquid cash to over 200 billion, if not 300 billion in cash that Iran has amassed because of lifting of sanctions. We can go on and on about some of the policies that, could ultimately hurt the United States drastically. If Kamala Harris would have been elected, it's just a fact,
Well, I'll tell you, I had a feeling that Trump would win, which is still really wild. Being the second individual to win the presidency, lose the presidency, and then win it back. But I did not expect as decisive of a win in that we did see. Majorly decisive, and I'm amazed. I was up it was about 12:30 or 1 a.m., which isn't too late when it was, clear that he was going to be the winner. That wasn't the way I expected it to go. Know what I mean? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Aaron. So, of course, we all have been analyzing the polls, knowing darn well you can only take polls with a grain of salt. They tend to have been not so right a majority of the time the last couple of
not so right,
not so correct. And I think I'm being a little bit facetious there because various polls, it depends on who does the polls. How they weigh it scientifically. And
well, one thing's for sure is they have, in my memory, the last three elections, the polls have had it completely wrong.
Yeah, and I had been encouraged, and I felt like that we were on the cusp of winning the election with Trump. But something that was real encouraging when I think I sent it to you guys is the lead pollster for Rasmussen, where he basically said, listen, the polls have not really been able to account for the political shift that's taken place. And he said even our polls have not accounted for the political shift, which by that, there's been a major shift in the, we'll just call it middle America, blue collar workers, that a large percentage, in the union, so on and so forth, that they just voted for Democrats for a long time. And so you saw a major shift there that was starting to, of course, some of the unions that either failed to support Harris, or some of the unions that endorsed Trump. That made me start thinking differently about it. And we were seeing an uptick in possible male black voters, increase movement towards Trump, and also the Hispanic community. Also, all that was coming out before the election.
The demographic shifts were certainly interesting.
Yeah, and now we're I haven't looked at the Electoral College numbers as of today. But Trump is looking at well into the 300s, maybe 300 plus, 319, I think is one of the numbers I saw. Forgive me, I haven't done a calculation like I normally would at this point, but I mean, he's looking at 300 plus. And in this day and age, that's a massive landslide because of the change in demographics. And it was believed that that was never going to happen again, especially from a Republican. And let's also talk about the fact that he won the popular vote. Mm-hmm. So nobody can talk about he didn't win the popular vote, which I just want to point out. Popular vote doesn't count for a reason, because we're a republic and an electoral college. Our founding fathers were ingenious in placing that in the Constitution, because otherwise it would only be the most populous states that the candidates would actually campaign in. And then middle America, which is all red, because of small, more rural type states, those states would not matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, right now they still matter. Granted, do candidates have to campaign in those states as heavily? No, because their philosophy is such. So it's not as important to campaign heavily in those. But boy, if we abolish the electoral college, candidates would campaign in California and New York, maybe a couple of other, maybe Philadelphia, states like that. But I really am thinking New York and California would be the two main. And if that was the case, it would be real hard for a conservative to win at that point.
Yeah.
So, and I'd like to mention, of course, the Republicans gained a majority in the Senate, which is massive. Last numbers I've got are 53 to 43. There's a couple of independents there, and on the House, I know there's a difference in the way that the congressional seats are a lot closer than the presidential election, but still, man, I can't understand how we're still counting votes for those congressional seats. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so we're looking like, so we've got 197 Democrat seats right now called and 209 Republican, but there is 15 Democrat and 14 Republican leaning seats. So if that's where it turns out, we'll have 223 Republicans to 212. Which that totals the 435 total seats of the House. So, I mean, if we have all three branches of government, which I am speaking specifically of, okay, we have a Supreme Court that's in our favor, and then we have obviously the legislature, both the House and the Senate and the executive. We're looking good. But I really want to mention, Aaron, and forgive me if I'm the one blabbering on about this, and I know you and I have had our discussions about this. I think that's why we're looking good right now. But the apparatus and the leftist philosophy inside our nation is still, I mean, they're going to fight hard. I still think it's important for us to continue to push for an Article 5 solution. The last numbers I'm looking at, Aaron, is 19 states have passed to have a state convention. 8 states have passed in one chamber. So that would total 27 states. And there is, goodness gracious, 22 states are considering passing that. So we need 34 states, 2/3 to call the convention. And the reason I mention that again is I don't want to say, hey, we've won the presidency and we may have all three branches of government currently in the favor of liberty and the Second Amendment. But I mean, we got to start doing something about our debt. We got to have some fiscal restraints, and we got to have some term limits. I can go on, but I just want to, any audience member out there, be very supportive of everything you can do to get behind a convention of the states. I've been writing my senators and congressmen here a couple of times already here in North Carolina because they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So But
Well, Eric,
Aaron,
I
go
just
ahead.
have one thing to say, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Here is one of the biggest things that we dodged, and who knows if they would have gotten it passed. But of course, Harris's campaign was talking about raising taxes on corporations and um, unrealized capital
Yeah.
gains taxes. Now, yeah, audience members out there, I'm talking off the cuff here. Um, I don't have figures in front of me, and I may be a little off on some of this stuff. But the only thing I'm going to talk about is if if you are supporting someone and you think that raising taxes on corporations is a good idea, respectfully, you need to dig into some economics. The No corporation pays taxes. Not a single corporation pays taxes. They remit taxes that their customers paid.
Mm-hmm.
That is an economic fact because a company is in business to make profit, and for investors to stay in business, to employ to keep people employed, they have to have a certain amount of profit. And if taxes go into that profit, then their cost goes, their prices go up, they lay off people. It is, again, no corporation, that's all that needs to be understood. No corporation pays taxes. Okay, they remit taxes from their customers, what the customers paid to them for their goods and services.
Well, and Aaron, I like to remind folks that have this attitude towards corporations, and I'm not saying, I mean, there's some crony capitalists out there, absolutely. So I'm not saying all corporations are good. I think there's plenty of corporations that don't have our best interest and our liberty in mind as well.
Right.
But what I will say is that, yeah, corporations are in the business of profiting. And why are they into profiting? Because they then take that and they pay every employee that they have working for them. That goes right into the economy. Those people go out and they buy goods and services with the money that they're paid from that company. And then that company takes capital that they have and they invest in other companies. That then it's just that, I know I'm getting into the elementary portions of economics, but a corporation isn't just there to make money to line the pockets of their top CEOs.
Yeah.
There's so much value in what corporations overall do economically, and it's just like going into what is involved in building a pencil. We can go down that road. I mean, anybody can go out there and research looking at the economic impacts of even building one single pencil and what goes into that. I mean, I implore folks to go out there. It's easy to find.
And look for Milton Friedman, how to build a pen. I don't remember but just look for Milton Friedman's talk on on building a simple pencil, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, yeah, Eric, the fact is, right, if there's no profit, they can't employ people.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get a job if no company makes a profit?
Yeah, and
So again,
go
so
ahead.
if you raise, if you're talking, if your plan is to tell your constituents that you're going to raise taxes on corporations, you're just telling them you're going to raise taxes on them, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, and I would also like to make another important point. And again, I'm amalgamating some figures here, just rolling off the cuff. Depending on which numbers you look at, the average increase in murder was around 44%. And and forgive me, John, if you're listening out there, that I may have some of those numbers a little bit off, but I would say I'm good on saying around 44% if you look at the last 3 to 4 years. And I'd say it's more than that, because we're talking about reported crimes. We're not talking about unreported crimes, and we're also not talking about let's just put it that way, unreported crimes. But average violent crime increased around 55%. When we vote, when we say that we're happy that President Trump won, it's not because we're just so crazy about Trump. He sometimes says some dumb stuff. He sometimes says some brilliant stuff.
He's certainly a goofball sometimes.
But we were better off under Trump economically and world safety wise, and definitively crime wise. And it went the wrong direction in the last 3.5, 4 years. That's just a fact. So we are glad that this election went our way, and it was massive. But I will say this: we talked about this too. Man, I did not want to go through days of wondering, who was gonna win. So when I saw North Carolina and Georgia call for Trump, and then Pennsylvania was looking stronger and stronger and stronger, and it was around the time that Pennsylvania went for Trump, I'm like, okay, I think I can go to bed now, because it was like 2:30 my time. Right, I was getting tired. And
I just wanted to interject this, but along the lines of what you're talking about there. Of course, this was. So my son is almost 19 years old. This was his first time to be able to vote in an election. And man, in my family, my wife and my 2 boys, elections are big deals. And we, amazing enough, have a blast going to vote, all of us together, and then going home, eating pizza and nachos and popcorn, and watching these results. And when I knew the fact that there was no way that Harris could win if one of the 3 blew all states, if she lost one of them, and that included Pennsylvania. And I'm saying this as it was a fun time to teach my son a little bit about something. And when they called Pennsylvania, I looked over at my son and I said, "This is over. That was it." And he goes, "How's that, Dad? How's it?" I explained that that's just the way the Electoral College works, when there are only certain avenues that each candidate can get to those 270 electoral votes. And I said, okay, that literally just called it.
Yeah.
One state, basically. I mean, at least I made it clear. So it was a fun night, because it just wasn't a stressful night. It was interesting to see it all come down.
And I'll just say this: it's morning in America.
Yep. Ronaldus Maximus.
Yeah, good way of putting it, man. Yeah. So, Aaron, you might recall, I think it was the last show we did. I think we did a throwback to the last one, but you recall I was bringing up ham radio again. I'm going to continue to bring it up more and more. Folks, consider getting your technician license. You can go back a couple of shows and look for the show that we did on that we covered some ham stuff. We covered several subjects, but I encourage folks, because a really good example, like I brought up that show, is that Hurricane Helene ham radio was crucial in the recovery support. And one of the things I was listening to, American Warrior Society, Rich Brown had Justin Carroll on his show not too long ago, and he's a former MARSOC Marine, and he now works for essentially it's an emergency recovery agency, and they work a lot of places, not just in the North Carolina area. It sounds like to me like his agency goes wherever they're needed, you know. And he talked about how all of them even learned the hard way how important a freaking basic FM radio was. Like a lot in the area that he was at, like everything communicated that was important was communicated over an FM radio station there locally.
Oh, neat.
And so again, you know, folks out there, I know we got a lot of smart people in our audience and a lot of folks that are resilient and have all that stuff on hand. But if you don't, because there's a lot of people that kind of have moved away from that, you know, but to have just a basic hand crank FM radio or a battery powered FM AM radio, I'd like you to have all. Like I'm sitting here looking at my Yaesu 991 Alpha ham radio that's next to me that of course does HF. It does UHF, VHF, which is like the repeaters, 140 megahertz, 440 megahertz. And again, like I mentioned, all the HF bands, but it does basic AM and FM too, because obviously some of those are in the same spectrum. And my antennas that I have out in the backyard pick up stations really good. So again, I'd like to see people consider getting their ham radio license. It's a fun hobby, and it can be very important. It might save somebody's life. It saved, ham radio saved a lot of people's lives during these hurricanes. I mean,
I'll tell on myself, I don't know where a FM or AM or both radio is. Hold on a second. Speaking of my 19-year-old, his Harley's pulling into the garage. Pretty freaking sweet bike. But I was saying that I don't know where a radio is within 300 yards of me right now. And I mean, I'm sure I could get online and go onto a station, but I'm talking about, a good battery powered radio I don't have. That I'm a little embarrassed to say that.
Well, bro, I mean, the easy part is you can write a note right now and square that away. There's a lot of choices, and I can give you some choices offline.
Sounds good.
Some of the current recommendations that I would make.
Yeah, please.
And again, I don't have my main HF. I don't have my main ham radio, or my handheld. Goodness gracious. That's the good part about most handheld ham radio HTs. Of course, they don't do HF. They're not capable of doing that, but they get all AM and FM radio stations too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you need to help me out. That's the beauty. Yeah. I might gear you towards getting a ham radio for that very reason. And then all of a sudden you get a wild hair, you decide to get your technician, bam, you're ready to go. And the cool part is it encourages you to do it.
Yeah.
Because you can listen, you can program in some repeaters in your little handheld, and you're getting to hear the ham operators over the air, you know, and you hear them talking from long distance away. And
bro, but if I do that, then I'm gonna have to hang a big giant triangular antenna in my backyard like someone else I know.
Did I show you my antenna back there? I don't remember if I showed it to you or not.
Oh yeah, you did.
But now be mindful though, that is for HF.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So the size antenna you would need, this is one of my antennas that it's about 19 inches long, right? That's a normal handheld HT antenna.
Okay.
I'm sitting here looking at a speaker wire J pole that I made. I can't pull it down because I'd have to, but that's also, it's quite long. So that's a better version of this that's resonant in those frequencies. So, but yeah, this
So,
is
bro,
all you would
you called it speaker wire. I mean, speak? What do you mean by speaker wire?
So you remember the twin lead speaker wire?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And I cut, I did all the calculations, and it's got a couple of cuts down the side of it in exact measurements for a J. It's actually the shape of a J.
Huh.
In that thin. The next program or the next program.
Next.
Listen, it sounds like we're on FM or
Yeah.
AM. The next podcast, man, I'll pull that down and I can show you.
Cool.
So yeah, and Aaron, that is one of the funnest parts of ham radio is when you can calculate and build your own antennas. I'm currently building a little in-fed match group that I'll be able to tune on. I'll just say the frequencies because when say it in meters, people don't understand it as well unless they have experience in it. But it'll tune up on 7 megahertz, 14 megahertz, 21 and 28 megahertz, all in the same wire. The way that I'm building this match group, which is where I wound an inductor and soldered a super small capacitor in line with it's a tank group essentially, and yeah, it will match the proper impedance and tuning capabilities for an in-fed, and I haven't calculated the amount of wire yet. I haven't had to do it yet. I'll have to just do it after I get that piece done. But that will connect directly to one of my portable HF rigs, so I won't actually have to have feed lines. So the antenna itself will just go directly on a BNC connection on my radio, so I can even take the end of that wire antenna and use a rock or a slingshot or anything. I can throw a piece of line and pull it up in a tree, and,
cool.
and use that for HF. So yeah, but the funny thing is, we're kind of getting a little too heavy in this topic. I didn't intend to, but yesterday I'd finished winding the toroid, and I got to where I trimmed off the in and the out and the ground and fed it through this little tiny board that I'm soldering everything to. And my damn soldering iron went down on me.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah, I'm like, crap. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a very expensive one, and I've had it about 10 years. So I just need just an excuse to get a better one.
Get you a good Weller.
Yeah, and actually, this was a Weller.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, and there's
Weller makes good ones.
Oh yeah, and well, they're varying degrees. I had to break out my soldering iron to repair a switch on a pedal, a compressor pedal. Just the other day.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
So another kind of fun story, and then I'll talk about a kind of more serious, not kind of, but very serious story that broke on Saturday, the 2nd of November. But Aaron, as you know, I am close to deploying again.
Yeah.
Now, incidentally, it's still a ways off, but I went and I went TDY to do my deployment training, the deployment physical and training. And of course, one of the things that we went over is a condensed TCCC medical class. And, it's all the basics, tourniquets, how to apply tourniquets properly. Of course, you practice, you drill with them, Israeli bandages, chest seals, packing wounds, also discussing when not to pack, of course, from the groin all the way up to the, the top of the sternum or the chest cavity, all that stuff, all the basics. But it's always good to review that stuff, and you're around like-minded people for the most part. Some didn't take it as serious as they should, but yeah, so I'm always welcoming a chance to work on my medical skills and run my tourniquets and run my bandages and just kind of have fun with guys that take it serious, like the medics that taught the class. And, I'd bring up certain things, like the wound packing, like AED. Shout out to Caleb Cossey out there. I made it a point for everybody to make sure they know where their AED is. The whole factor if somebody goes into cardiac arrest, if they're shocked within 7 minutes, they have a 90% or greater chance of surviving. So I was bringing those things up, not to be a smart ass or, a know-it-all. I didn't mean it that way at all. But I thought a lot of that was important. But afterwards, one of the medics came up to me and he said, "Hey, sir, were you a medic in the Army?" And I said, no, not at all. I said, I just kind of take this stuff serious and have been through quite a bit of civilian. I said, I used to maintain my TCCC combat lifesaver. And I was almost like a funny thought came in my head from planes, trains, and automobiles. And I thought, because I've been training with Caleb Cossey and Sherman House.
I can pack anything.
Shout out to Caleb and Sherman, because those guys are great mentors of ours, and of course we've learned a lot from those guys. So shout out to those guys. And I also had the opportunity. I happened to be wearing my Riker nylon ankle kit that I've got here. Shout out to our buddy Chris Lapre, who helped design this. Those medics went crazy over this.
Did they?
Yeah, they loved it. They couldn't believe I was pulling this off my ankle. That's might have been another indicator why they thought I was. But they took the information down and they said they were going to jump on and order one. So shout out to Riker and Chris Lapre as well on these kits, man.
I love my Riker. I wear that thing every day.
You forget it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's so comfortable. Yeah, man. So, I think we're getting close to the closing. Boy, that was redundant. We're getting close to the end of the show. But Aaron, I don't know. Did you hear about this Nashville grid bomb plot that they caught this punk kid?
Yes, I did.
Over the weekend?
Yes, I did.
And the only reason, again, I thought it was important to bring this up, I mean, these are threats all the time. And that's why we talk about, being prepared. I get to the point where I don't like calling ourselves preppers, because I wouldn't say that I'm the best prepper whatsoever, ever. I think preppers become a pejorative, wouldn't you say? Some people think you're a little bit goofball. But I mean, again, we've talked about this multiple times recently because of all the disasters we've had. Because, folks need to at least have, at a minimum 3 days worth of food and water and medicine, all that, and, be able to communicate, ham radio, so on and so forth. But better yet, aim for 3 months of all that for your family. Better yet, aim for a year, to have all that. And so, again, because, I mean, if like folks like this get successful, folks in a large area could be without power for a long time. So, but yeah, I can just read a quick section of this. This is off Fox News. I mean, you can get it on any other source, but Nashville power grid bomb plot suspect unmasked as babyface thug. This kid does look. I thought that was kind of funny. Authorities have unmasked the Nashville drone terror plot suspect, 24-year-old Skylar Philippi, who appeared in court documents wearing a skull mask and showing off homemade bombs in a foiled effort to blow up the Music City power grid. He is accused of plotting to blow up a power station with a bomb-laden drone that authorities say was powered up when they arrested him in a parking lot near the Target. And so I don't necessarily want to go into all the details on it. I don't think it's necessary. But the dummy got hooked up with some FBI informants, so of course they they were working with the FBI, and of course the kid got caught. Now, this is kind of stuff the FBI is supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Not some of the other stuff they've been doing, but we applaud the FBI for stopping that person that's deranged, of course. And I bring that up again where it again piqued my interest. Drones have become a big interest of mine for Overwatch capabilities and for obvious reasons. But I have not settled on one. I'm still researching them. But I also, it's funny. I'm a big reader, and I read a lot of fiction too. I read both. Nonfiction and fiction, but I do read a lot of fiction. I enjoy sitting down to fiction, and I'm currently reading the Chaos Agent by Mark Graney. It's one of the Gray Man series, and man, it's all about autonomous drones and robots. Man, it's like a futuristic. Well, not futuristic, because I'd say Terminator is certainly futuristic, but it's like a more viable version of what kind of the Terminator aimed at portraying as a cautionary tale. And so, yeah, that piqued my interest because drones are going to become a big tool of terrorism. I mean, they're easy.
Yeah.
I do wonder, I was thinking about that the other day too. When is that going to be a freedom they want to try to take away from us because of the same factor?
Oh, I've not, to be honest, I've not thought about that.
Yeah, because I mean, soon enough, we're going to start having the left come after drone control.
There's no valid reason for a civilian to have a military grade drone.
Exactly, man. I hear it now. I was driving thinking about it. I was like, man, soon enough, people that are well-intentioned and or plan on using them for being able to recon in tough times, or, if that was ever to come about, or, I mean, again, just having abilities to watch over, your property and whatnot in those kind of situations, and just to have fun,
Yeah.
And folks use them for filming, folks use them for just enjoying flying around. And,
well, again, civilians do not, there's no valid reason to have a drone to go hunting deer with.
Funny. So, yeah,
I'll keep my day job. Well, Eric, as we're closing out here, I want to say one more thing on the same lines regarding FBI's work. So today I was eating lunch, sitting next to a sheriff's deputy, and he said that on election day, that, I mean, I'm sure before, but they came to the knowledge from the FBI reaching out to the Tulsa area law enforcement that there was a credible Islamic terrorist threat to attack a polling place.
Wow. I remember you said something to that effect today. Was it in the Oklahoma area, or
in my town, Tulsa? So,
wonder if it's some of these terrorists that have been led over the border in the last 3.5, 4 years.
Man, no joke, but I mean, he wasn't saying a lot about it. I'm sure he didn't know a ton about it too, but it was definitely, I mean, so just think how many other cities had that same thing. And that's when I brought up, it is just incredible that there are not more terrorist attacks that's successful, right? And he said, and I'd have to agree, he goes, we actually have pretty good intelligence that stops this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very encouraging.
Yeah.
Because there were at a minimum, the numbers we talked about, over 350 known terrorists. We're talking high value target terrorists that are known to have been lost in our country that cross the borders.
With the situation, I mean, it's sad to say this, but it's a matter of time before something else happens. I mean, just the law of averages, right? I mean,
that's why we stay armed every chance we get, and we also, keep our wits about us and be aware. Know where your exits are in buildings. Have a plan to get out. If and have multiple routes out best you can. So I mean, it's not that we're paranoid. Some people may think that.
Oh,
but we need to be prepared, and that's even, we got U.S. citizens that want to go shoot places up. But but we should remind everybody when we talk about that, it's typically in gun-free zones. Mm-hmm. It's a very low probability when it's known that there can be armed personnel or people in those locations. But
you have to forgive me, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal to carry, or at least I'd have to look it up, but I think it might be illegal to carry at polling places, at least in some states.
I will tell you, Aaron, I was very proud. I was able to carry in the polling place here in North Carolina. It's not against the law here.
Good to hear that.
So I mean, and I felt very glad. Not that I was worried about something like that happening per se, but boy, if it did. But yes, I was very proud to be able to carry my concealed firearm in the polling place.
Well, bro, I think we've had a good show here.
Amen. Yeah, it was fun. I think we covered a lot of subjects, and hopefully edifying to folks out there. If anything else, a little bit of entertainment with some of our silly jokes.
Mm-hmm. Well, bro, I'm going to go eat dinner.
Sounds good, man.
You're probably going to go to bed, get up early to go to jiu-jitsu, huh?
I just might. Nah, Aaron, as a matter of fact, tomorrow I telework. I could still go to jiu-jitsu if I really wanted to. But since my schedule's changed at work, my morning jiu-jitsu has been few and far between. So it's evenings for me now, or at least for the time being. And I love going in the morning. We'll see what happens.
One last thing. My wife is currently at jiu-jitsu, but she went to class with me last night at my gym.
Awesome.
And I can say this. I did not tap her once. I don't know how many times she tapped me. It was at least freaking 5 or 6 times.
That's awesome.
Shout out to Becky. Is legit. Okay. Skill, experience, man, for my wife to be able to I don't have a chance against her. I really don't. Now I need to get to the gym more, but at the same time, it's just, dude, it's her favorite thing to do ever now. So.
As Paul Sharp says, jiu-jitsu is a superpower. I'd say it is, man. Jocko says that too.
Cool.
Jocko Willink says it's a superpower as well. And it is. Well, bro, love you, man. It was good talking to you. We'll get this thing pushed out ASAP.
All right, bro. Love you. Good night.
Love you too, man. Bye.